For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
This is StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh, Revi, and you're watching The Gist. Glad to have from Istanbul, Ambassador Javed Ludin. He's been a politician and ex-diplomat, Afghanistan's former deputy foreign minister, an ambassador of Afghanistan as well, held top positions, an entrepreneur, and he's also the co-founder of the Heart of Asia Society. Ambassador Ludin, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amitabh. It's good to be with you again.
Not very good, though, the situation, Ambassador, in Afghanistan. We're hearing now that Ghazni has fallen. There are meetings, diplomatic meetings that are continuing in Qatar. And the foreign ministry has issued a statement there. The delegation, of course, of the Republic, headed by the HCNR chairperson, Dr. Abdullah, they're calling on the international community to do something to stop the Taliban military offensive and across the country. What exactly is your reaction to both the developments and what the international community should do, Ambassador?
Well, really, I feel quite disappointed about the situation right now. It should not have come to this for many reasons. But I think since you raised the issue of the international community's engagement and also the statement from the Afghan delegation in Doha, it should not have come to this had the international community and regional powers acted with a greater sense of and keener sense of responsibility about developments in Afghanistan. Let's remember, if this military course that's currently underway and the fact that the political process is basically dead in water. If this goes forward and leads to God forbid, to sort of potentially to a collapse of state once again in Afghanistan, it's all clear from our history and from our experience of such situations anywhere. That it's going to be a catastrophe for the people of Afghanistan. But I think the one thing that I would add to the statement from the Afghan government side is that the world and the region should also see it as a responsibility they owe to themselves, to their own security. A collapsed Afghanistan, an Afghanistan that's in a much wider and prolonged state of conflict will also be disaster for the security of the region. Now, my worry, and the one thing that the world should have realized earlier on, is that waiting to see if a Taliban victory can materialize was not a responsible way of responding to the Afghan crisis. Even if the Taliban were to sort of pull off a complete military victory, which you see now from the momentum that they have, it's possible. My fear is that they will be that will not mean just a change of regime in Afghanistan. I don't think the Taliban will be able to unite the country. I don't think the Taliban will be able to respond to the dire needs of the Afghan people at this moment. But above all, I don't think the Taliban will be able to reassure the region and the world that Afghanistan will be a safe place for them and for their security. So for all those reasons, it's not just a humanitarian call from coming from Afghanistan that the world should heed. It is a very strategic question right now about their own security in the future.
Sure. Now, a lot of criticism coming in of the US, of the Biden administration, of them cutting and running, as it's been put by many analysts. But when you say the region and the international community should have acted more responsibly, what could they have done to prevent what's happening in Afghanistan currently?
Well, for one thing, the United States should and must have handled the withdrawal of the presence in Afghanistan, the military presence,
Sure.
more responsibly. No Afghan was ever, I think, as far as I know, for a very, very long time, for a number of years, not just in recent years, but for a long time, was really in favor of an open-ended or endless U.S. military or NATO military presence in Afghanistan. However, to end a very long-standing, deep involvement, military involvement in a conflict, just on a very light analysis like the Biden administration, or even, for that matter, the previous administration, the Trump administration did, was not responsible, and that's really one of the reasons that the crisis is unfolding in the manner that it does. The Afghan government side, the Republic side, feels extremely disempowered, weak, and the Taliban side feeling emboldened, legitimized, and basically with a sense of victory. Now, having said that, the region has for a long time failed in its own responsibility towards Afghanistan as well. Let's remember that this, even before the US left for a long time, there has been a lot of clarity about the fact that the origin of the conflict was regional in nature. The role of Pakistan was very, very obvious, and rather than that factor being addressed as a source of conflict, as a place from which the Taliban insurgency was basically getting fed, that was not addressed, neither by the Westerners nor by regional some sort of a regional consensus within the region. Now, on the other hand, now that the Americans are out of the equation, we haven't seen the kind of leadership from regional powers, whether it's India, whether it's Russia, China, Iran, Pakistan. There's still a great sense. Basically, I mean, what we are seeing in the region is chaos. Every country basically thinking in terms of their own little sphere of interests. There is an utter failure to have some regional consensus about the end state in Afghanistan. They think issuing generalized statements of support for peace, a peaceful settlement, and of rejection of war is the end of their responsibility. I'm sorry, that's not. The region should, in fact, have a keener sense that it has always been a regional conflict, and it will remain a regional conflict. If the Taliban take over, the war will take a regional proxy war character, and that will draw in all these big regional powers. So basically, that's why that must have been at the heart of the rationale for the region to come together and actually find a common solution for this situation.
Of late, and it may be too late, but we've seen, at least on social media, whether it has any effect, this campaign of sanction Pakistan. But when you're talking about specifics, we also saw a special session that was held at the United Nations Security Council. India is the president there. India is the chair of the Taliban Sanctions Committee. Do you think that paradoxically, it's the Americans who could be, say, blocking the stick that could be given to the Taliban in terms of sanctions, travel bans, some kind of message being sent from the UN? Is that something that could work?
Well, but look, I mean, my position on Pakistan, the role of Pakistan, has always been very clear, and it is sadly a major reason for failure in Afghanistan on many levels, and responsible for the current situation. But I think what I don't understand is the fact that still some in the region and within Afghanistan, they see Pakistan bashing as the strategy. I'm sorry, but that is not. We've tried to do that for the past 20 years. It hasn't worked, and it won't work now. What's important is to really put aside whatever we have, whatever certain countries feel about Pakistan, or certain leaders or elements feel about Pakistan. Now is the time for where is the strategy right now? The strategy would have been to actually come together. I would have rather liked the UN Security Council session to focus more on the role of the United Nations rather than the role of Pakistan, because once the UN, now that the US has left the fray and has quite a significantly diminished leverage in the peace process, we need another champion. We need somebody else to be able to convene people, bring heads together, and find an urgent solution to the current conflict. So I think those opportunities must not be missed now to just basically repeat the same thing. I think that's what I don't understand. That's why I don't think we should really be focusing more on the
So do you think the UN could be one of those champions who could move the process forward?
I think the UN probably is the only sort of global entity that can bring other powers around one table. Within the region, sadly, we live in a region where there is no unity behind anything, including in Afghanistan. The region has always been divided about the future of Afghanistan. And right now, even though we have some global powers just in our neighborhood, they have either not been able to or not wanted to play the role of a champion for Afghanistan's future and Afghanistan's peace, or to a convening power, for somebody to bring everybody together because of their own troubled relationship with certain other countries, either in the region or outside the region. Now, the US in the last 2-3 years tried to play that role. They did lead the peace process. They initiated some formats of engagement with regional powers, but they were including the very format that took place yesterday in Doha, the Troika Plus format. However, those have not worked yet. They have not translated into concrete positions. They've issued statements, but that's where it ends. Now, that's why I think right now the UN probably, if it is fully empowered, if it's led by the United Nations Security Council, not at any other level. It has to be empowered by the Security Council mandate.
Sure.
That kind of an engagement can work on building some sort of a regional consensus right now about ending the current catastrophe, but also, getting some sort of agreement about what kind of Afghanistan is good for the Afghan people, but also good for the region.
Do you think, more sanctions or warnings to the Taliban from the United Nations could have an impact on how they are moving militarily, or do they not care?
I don't know specifically about sanctions, because the Taliban have always been very resistant to sanctions. They still are under sanctions, but that hasn't really affected their ability to perform military on the battlefield, and also to just basically engage politically with the world. What I would rather than sanctions, I think I'd focus on conditionality, which is basically, and that will also not so much work if it's done sporadically, if it's done by certain countries, either in the region or outside the region. It will work if the Taliban know that there is unity in that position, if the entire region will reject them in the future, that the entire region will not recognize them, if they try to form, to come to power through military victory. if the region is going to reject that kind of an engagement, and Afghanistan will go into isolation, those sort of conditionalities, and also more positive conditionalities, like offering recognition, support, if Afghans do come together and work out a solution politically through the negotiating table. Those kind of conditionality, and it's high time for that to become the core strategy of the region and the countries beyond the region.
Sure.
Because no other things has worked, obviously.
Right. You were mentioning earlier that Pakistan bashing is not the answer, and I think you were referring to NSA Mohib and Shah Mahmood Qureshi and the Pakistan-Afghanistan issue, but the root cause still is in Pakistan, and where is the Taliban getting its money from? I mean, of course, there would be drugs. They have now taken several border crossing points where they would be getting revenue as well. Where are they getting their ammunition, their logistics, their safe havens, their families are there? So isn't Pakistan the root cause, and shouldn't that be tackled?
Well, Pakistan is the root cause. There is no question. The fact that sanctuaries never ended in Pakistan, the fact that at some level, some level of policy, and then at their operational level, Taliban always over the past 20 years continued to receive support there. The fact that still their leadership is still based there. All these are undeniable facts, and I think it's what I find pointless about discussing these things right now is that it's not a new discussion. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is okay? We've said that all along for 20 years. We failed to get the. I think I'm not saying I'm not necessarily talking about a certain individual within Afghanistan or Pakistan or the region. I think I'm talking generally about the regional position, and I'm also. This is my advice also to my Indian friends, because I think that this is this is where on this issue the only country with which Afghans have had sort of full agreement and have always seen eye to eye is on this issue of regional support to terrorism. Now, what I'm saying is, okay, we have tried to do that. When Afghanistan is now at the cusp of another civil war, literally right now, when the situation is really dire, I think it doesn't seem very helpful to me that we just try to beat the old drums, rather than actually making very, very serious efforts to try to find a solution to this. I think my position was more, or really I think my comment was more directed at India right now as the presidency of the Security Council for this month. This is an extremely important opportunity for a major and most important neighbor of Afghanistan, which is India, to really get some serious effort underway to try to stop this situation. And I don't think sort of creating opportunities for public statements and criticisms of one or another's action, no matter how rightful and how accurate that may be, is probably wasting this valuable month of opportunity that we have. I would really argue that month of opportunity should be spent on devising a UN Security Council strategy for a UN role, for a special envoy or some sort of a UN role to get the region, number one, to stop the war, to achieve ceasefire, and number two, to pull the entire weight of the region in a coordinated fashion behind a peaceful solution. And that's possible.
That's possible, you're saying. And since you're talking about India, how does India deal with the situation? I mean, say, for example, the NDSAF, we have trained your troops, your officers, your lady officers as well. There were military helicopters, attack helicopters that were given. Apparently, one of them, which is probably in an unserviceable or unflyable condition was taken, so as to speak, by the Taliban when they took the Kunduz airfield yesterday. So how do you think, apart from the United Nations Security Council, what should India be doing?
Well, I mean, we've always expected solidarity and support in hard times from a friend that's, that we have been able to rely on, and that's India. We continue to do that now. This is a hard moment, and as I said, there has to be some sense of urgency to everything that we do. There also has to be some sort of a strategic approach to what we do, because we could, if we talk about aspirational things right now, in a situation where every day the reality is being shaped on the battlefield, it's probably not going to be an advisable strategy. I think India, it would be advisable that they actually also think about what they can do right now at this moment to immediately influence the situation and towards a cessation of violence, the military campaign, and then some sort of a peaceful settlement. Longer term, I think when it comes to regional security and Afghan security, India and Afghanistan have always advocated for a more robust relationship between Afghanistan and India. But I think I'd really rather than now, I'd rather talk about them some other time, because for me, right now the situation is quite alarming on the battlefield right now.
Absolutely. Now, since you're in Turkey, what do you see Turkey's role? There's a lot of talk of, a major role at the Ahmed Karzai International Airport, though the Taliban have said that they would not want Turkish troops there. Erdogan has spoken to Ghani as well. What do you see as Turkey's role?
I think Turkey as a for several reasons. It's a Muslim country with a very long-standing history of centuries of history of relationship with Afghanistan. It's a member of NATO, so it is practically the only country that has both a regional, a very strong sort of regional foothold and profile, but also in the West and in NATO. So for all those combinations, Turkey was the perfect country to play some sort of a continuity role in a post NATO or post US military presence time. And I think they were willing. I must also say that it was good, because sometimes countries can play a major role in a certain aspect, but then you find in a rather frustrating manner that they're not willing to play that role. They don't rise up to the challenge. Now, Turkey was in fact willing. Now, on that one as well, I don't think it's a closed chapter yet, even though the Taliban have said no, and there are some other challenges. But I think that should still be considered, because it's very important for Afghanistan, at this moment, it's extremely important that the foreign embassies that are present in Kabul, other entities there, that they have a lot of confidence that that there is connectivity between Afghanistan and the rest of the world. And if there was an airport that would be managed by Turkey and secured by Turkey, would be a good idea, and hopefully that will still be done. But as far as I'm concerned, I know right now that's not yet been implemented.
Sure. And Ambassador, while we talk about countries' roles, individuals' roles, institutions' roles, the international community, we shouldn't really forget that it's the people of Afghanistan who are suffering here with the military offensive, COVID situation, there's drought, there's climate change. and I remember, I do remember Rashid Khan himself, the cricketer, had tweeted he's doing a lot of help, humanitarian work. That's the focus that everybody should be on, right? It's the human suffering that has to be ended.
Absolutely. In Afghanistan, already before even this latest chapter of military campaign, was already at the cusp of a humanitarian disaster.
Yeah.
For a combination of factors, we've been facing droughts for successive years in the past. We just were hit by COVID. Obviously, the best of economies and the stablest of countries were thrown off balance by the COVID pandemic. So you can imagine a country like Afghanistan would be hit far worse. And then there was war, but right now with the current war, we have seen that humanitarian disaster really, in a big way, have grown grown multifold. We are seeing thousands of people displaced, and just to add to this picture, and I'm sorry today, I mean, I've been only negative and I haven't said much, probably by way of a promise. But what I'm saying is that this one warning is that this is going to get far worse if the military campaign continues. So to those entities around the world that may not find it probably possible to look at the current situation from a strategic prism, from a prism of regional security responsibility and many other ways, there is plenty of reason for them to actually take action for humanitarian reasons, as you just said, because there's a massive humanitarian disaster unfolding right now, and we are seeing it already on the streets of Kabul and other places. But basically, I think the urgency, whatever we can look at it from very different perspectives, but it all boils down to this one action. We Afghans feel that we are in a situation where there is not much that we can do right now other than to continue to fight for our independence, for the survival of the Afghan Republic, for our constitution, and for our for our own survival. But the current situation, the current crisis, is only going to end if there is a significant regional and international engagement right now. So in the first priority is to end the current war by whatever means that is possible, and I think it is possible. So I would once again just urge that for now that for as long as there is an opportunity, which there is right now, the regional powers particularly, but also the wider international community, should intervene in a strong manner and stop the current bloodshed.
Ambassador Javed Ludin, absolutely appreciate your time and your assessment. We'll obviously be keeping a close eye on the situation in and around Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mr. Revi. It's really good to talk to you, like always.
Pleasure was ours. Just a reminder, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, do press that bell icon, and you'll get notified when we put up videos like this one. Do also follow us on our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for the latest news and analysis from an Indian perspective. This is The Gist on StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh.